Jack Andrews is a single dad working as a mechanic in Seattle, struggling to make ends meet while raising his young daughter. One stormy evening, while walking home from work, he witnesses a helicopter spinning out of control above the city. Without hesitation, he races to the crash site. Drawing on his mechanical expertise, Jack manages to rescue the passengers from the wreckage, including a young woman named Sarah. What he doesn't know is that Sarah is actually Sarah Blackwood, the secret heiress to a multi-billion-dollar empire who's been living anonymously while searching for authentic connections in life. As Jack helps her from the twisted metal, neither realizes this moment will change both their lives forever. But will Sarah's wealth and family expectations tear apart the genuine connection they've found in each other? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Rain pelted the twisted metal of the helicopter as emergency lights painted the scene in alternating red and blue. Jack Andrews' hands trembled slightly as he held the umbrella over the young woman he'd just helped from the wreckage. Her blonde hair was matted with rain, and a small cut above her eyebrow left a thin trail of blood that mixed with the rainwater on her cheek. "You should let the paramedics check that," Jack said, gesturing to her forehead. "I'm fine," she insisted, pulling her sodden jacket tighter around her shoulders. "Thanks to you." Her eyes met his, deep brown and filled with a gratitude that made Jack shift uncomfortably. "Anyone would have done the same," he mumbled, though they both knew that wasn't true. The crowd of onlookers huddled behind the police tape proved that most people's instinct was to watch, not act. A paramedic approached with a blanket, but Sarah, she'd told him her name was Sarah, waved them away. "Really? I'm fine, just a scratch." There was something in her tone, an authority that made even the paramedic hesitate before nodding and moving on to check the pilot. Jack's phone buzzed in his pocket. "Excuse me," he said, stepping away to answer. "Hey, Mrs. Rodriguez, is everything okay?" His elderly neighbor's voice crackled through the speaker. "Emma's fine, Jack, but she's asking for you. The news is showing the crash, and she's worried." Jack glanced at his watch, 8:45 p.m. He'd missed dinner and bedtime. Again. "Tell her I'm okay. I'll be home soon." "You did good, Jack," Mrs. Rodriguez said softly. "That helicopter was coming down right on top of Wilson's hardware. If you hadn't helped the pilot—" "I've got to go," Jack cut in, not wanting to think about what might have happened. "Thank you for watching Emma." When he turned back, Sarah was watching him intently. "Your daughter?" Jack nodded. "Emma. She's 8. He pulled out his wallet and opened it to show a photo. Emma beamed back at them, her dark curls wild around her face, paint smeared across one cheek. "She's an artist," he added with pride. Sarah's expression softened as she studied the photo. "She has your smile." Then, glancing at his work uniform, still visible under his rain-soaked jacket, "You're a mechanic at Riley's auto shop just down the street. I was walking home when—" He gestured at the wreckage. Fire crews were still working to secure the scene, their movements efficient and purposeful in the rain. "Mr. Andrews," a police officer called. "Out. We need your statement." Jack started to move away, but Sarah caught his arm. "Wait." She pulled a business card from her jacket pocket and pressed it into his hand. "I owe you dinner, at least, for saving my life." Before Jack could protest, she was walking away, her heels clicking against the wet pavement with surprising steadiness for someone who'd just survived a helicopter crash. Jack looked down at the card. It was simple, almost stark. Sarah Wilson, art consultant, with just a phone number underneath. The next morning's paper carried the headline, "Local Mechanic Prevents Helicopter Tragedy." Jack's weather-beaten ID badge photo stared back at him from page 3, alongside a blurry shot of the crash scene. The article mentioned 3 passengers, a pilot and 2 civilians, but no names were given. Jack folded the paper carefully, tucking it away before Emma could see it, but his daughter was too quick. She appeared in the kitchen doorway, the paper clutched in her small hands. "Daddy, you're a hero." Jack lifted her into his arms, breathing in the familiar scent of strawberry shampoo and the ever-present trace of paint. I'm just glad everyone's okay, sweetie. Did you meet anyone? Was there a princess in the helicopter? Emma's imagination, as usual, ran wild with possibilities. Jack thought of Sarah's quiet authority, the way even the paramedics had deferred to her. No princesses, he said, though something nagged at the back of his mind. But I did meet a nice lady who likes art, just like you. Emma's eyes lit up. Really? Can I meet her? Maybe, Jack said, setting her down. But right now, you need to finish getting ready for school. He watched her skip away, her backpack covered in carefully painted flowers and stars, Emma's own handiwork. The business card sat on his counter, its crisp white edges a stark contrast to the pile of bills. Beside it, Jack picked it up, running his thumb over the embossed letters. Art consultant. It felt like a piece of a different world, one far removed from oil changes and overtime shifts. Outside, the morning sun broke through Seattle's perpetual clouds, casting golden light across the puddles left by last night's storm. A new day, Jack thought, tucking the card into his wallet. Just another day of making ends meet, of being the father Emma deserved. He couldn't know then how wrong he was, how that simple business card would bridge two worlds that were never meant to meet. The pile of bills seemed to multiply every time Jack looked at them. Electric, past due. Water, final notice. Emma's art class fees, already 2 weeks late. He spread them across the kitchen table, running calculations in his head as he sipped. Coffee that had gone cold hours ago. The garage wasn't doing well. Old man Riley had been talking about selling, and the place needed repairs they couldn't afford. Just yesterday, they'd lost another customer to the sleek new auto center across town. Jack had watched through the grimy windows as Mrs. Peterson's minivan pulled away, probably for the last time. "Daddy, look!" Emma burst into the kitchen, proudly holding up her latest masterpiece. A swirl of blues and purples dominated the canvas, with something that might have been a helicopter soaring through the stormy sky. "It's from your rescue." Jack quickly gathered the bills, tucking them into his pocket. "It's beautiful, sweetie. The best one yet." "Ms. Thompson says I could get into the advanced art program," Emma said, her eyes shining. "She's submitting my portfolio next week." Jack's heart sank. The advanced program, another expense he couldn't afford. That's great, Em. We'll talk about it later, okay? Time for school." At the garage, things weren't any better. The ancient lift groaned ominously as Jack worked under Mr. Garcia's Buick. They needed a new one, but that would cost thousands they didn't have. "Jack!" Riley's voice echoed through the garage. "Someone here to see you." He rolled out from under the car, wiping his hands on a rag, and there she was, Sarah Wilson, looking completely out of place in the dingy garage in her cream-colored blazer and designer jeans. "Hi," she said simply, as if running into him at a coffee shop rather than tracking him down at work. Riley shot Jack a knowing look before disappearing into his office. "Great. How did you find me?" Jack asked, suddenly conscious of the grease stains on his coveralls. "The newspaper article," Sarah said, stepping carefully around a puddle of oil. "I hope you don't mind. I meant what I said about dinner." Before Jack could respond, there was a horrible screech of metal. The lift holding Mr. Garcia's Buick shuddered, dropping several inches before catching itself. "Everyone out!" Jack shouted, rushing to the car. He managed to stabilize the lift, but the damage was clear. It wouldn't last another week. Sarah watched the whole thing, her expression unreadable. "How much would a new lift cost?" "We can't afford one," Jack said shortly, not meeting her eyes. He didn't need charity, especially not from someone who probably spent more on lunch than he made in a week. "That's not what I asked." Jack sighed. 15,000 for a decent one. "Look, I appreciate you coming by, but—" "Have dinner with me," Sarah interrupted. "Bring Emma. I'd love to see her art." Jack started to refuse, but something in Sarah's expression stopped him. There was no pity there, just genuine interest. And maybe something else. "One dinner," he found himself saying, but I'm cooking. I know a great recipe for spaghetti and meatballs. Sarah's smile lit up her whole face. Deal. Tomorrow night. After she left, Riley emerged from his office. Nice lady, he said casually. Seems interested in more than just your mechanical skills. It's not like that, Jack protested. She was in the helicopter crash. Probably feels obligated. Riley snorted. Sure, kid. That's why she drove here in a car worth more than my house. Just to ask you to dinner. He paused, his expression growing serious. Jack, I'm selling the garage. Got an offer this morning. Corporate outfit wants to tear it down, build one of those quick lube places. The words hit Jack like a physical blow. Boss, you can't. I'm tired, Jack. Been doing this 40 years. It's time. Riley clasped his shoulder. You're the best mechanic I've ever had. I'll write you a recommendation. Help you find something else. Jack nodded numbly, watching Riley shuffle back to his office. Another bill would be due next week. Emma's art program applications were sitting on the kitchen counter, and now this. He pulled Sarah's business card from his wallet, studying it in the harsh fluorescent light. Tomorrow night's dinner suddenly felt like more than just a thank you meal. It felt like hope, dangerous, unexpected hope. Sarah stood in her modest apartment, staring at the 2 driver's licenses laid out on her coffee table. One bore her real name, Sarah Elizabeth Blackwood, heir to the Blackwood global empire. The other, her chosen identity, Sarah Wilson, art consultant. The photos were identical, but they represented 2 completely different lives. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from her father's assistant. Board meeting tomorrow. Your presence is required. She ignored it, just as she had ignored the last dozen messages. Instead, she checked the time. 5 hours until dinner at Jack's. The television droned in the background, some financial news channel she'd normally watch religiously. Blackwood global stocks continue to rise amid speculation about the mysterious absence of Sarah Blackwood, who hasn't been seen at corporate events for over 3 months. Sarah clicked it off, her hand shaking slightly. 3 months of freedom. 3 months of being judged for who she was, not what she was worth, until the helicopter crash nearly exposed everything. She moved to her closet, pushing past the designer labels to find something suitably casual for dinner at Jack's. Her hand lingered on a simple blue sweater. Something Sarah Wilson would wear, not Sarah Blackwood. The doorman's voice crackled through her intercom. Miss Wilson, there's a Mr. Preston from the Chronicle asking about you. Says it's about the helicopter crash. Sarah's heart raced. Tell him I'm not available. She moved to her laptop, quickly pulling up the local news sites. Nothing yet connecting her to the crash, but reporters were getting curious. The mysterious woman who'd walked away from the scene, refusing medical attention. Her phone rang. Her grandmother this time, the only person who knew where she really was. They're getting closer, dear, Margaret Blackwood said without preamble. Your father's hired investigators. I just need more time, Sarah replied, sinking onto her sofa. I'm so tired of being the Blackwood heir, Grandma. Of board meetings and merger discussions, and every man who looks at me seeing dollar signs instead of a person. And this mechanic? What does he see? Sarah smiled, remembering how Jack had shielded her from the rain after the crash, not knowing. She could have bought the entire block where his garage stood. He sees someone who likes art and needs dinner after a rough day. Nothing more. Be careful, darling. Hearts are more fragile than helicopter parts. After hanging up, Sarah studied her reflection in the hallway mirror. The cut above her eyebrow had nearly healed. Jack's quick action during the crash had prevented anything worse. She touched it gently, remembering the warmth of his hands as he'd helped her from the wreckage. The fake ID felt heavy in her pocket. She'd created the Sarah Wilson identity months ago, renting the apartment under that name, building a believable background as an art consultant. It wasn't entirely a lie. She did have an eye for art, had even run Blackwood Global's extensive collection before she'd needed to breathe. A text message lit up her phone. Emma can't wait to show you her paintings. Hope you like. Spaghetti. Jack. Such a simple message. No hidden agenda, no corporate maneuvering, just a father including her in his family's dinner. Sarah gathered her things, a bottle of wine, a small gift for Emma she'd picked up from the art supply store. Normal things, real things. As she headed for her car, another reporter was waiting in the lobby. "Ms. Wilson, about the helicopter crash." "No comment," she said firmly, hurrying past. But his next words made her freeze. "Witnesses say you declined medical attention. Standard procedure requires all crash victims to be examined, unless they have a reason to avoid official documentation." Sarah kept walking, her heart pounding. She'd been so careful these past months, building her new life piece by piece. One dinner with Jack and Emma. That's all she wanted. One evening of being simply Sarah, the woman who loved art and had somehow found herself drawn into the orbit of a kind mechanic and his talented daughter. But as she drove toward Jack's modest house in her deliberately average car, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that her two worlds were about to collide. The reporter's words echoed in her mind, mixing with her grandmother's warning about fragile hearts. Jack's smile greeted her at the door, warm and genuine. Behind him, Emma bounced excitedly, already talking about her latest paintings. For a moment, Sarah let herself believe this could work, that she could keep her worlds separate, protect this precious connection she'd found. But the weight of her fake ID pressed against her hip, a constant reminder that every moment with them was built on a foundation of lies. The blueprint for Riley's auto shop lay spread across Sarah's desk, its edges curling slightly in the morning light. Her laptop displayed the shell company she'd created, Wilson Automotive Holdings, LLC. Simple, untraceable, and most importantly, impossible to connect to Blackwood Global. "It's a significant risk," her grandmother's voice crackled through the speakerphone. "If your father discovers you're using family money this way." "It's my trust fund," Sarah countered, studying the garage's layout. "And I'm not just giving him the money, I'm investing in a viable business. A business you found because its owner rescued you from a helicopter crash." Margaret Blackwood's tone was dry, but not unkind. "Just be careful, dear. The heart can make even the smartest woman blind." Sarah ended the call and turned back to the blueprints. The garage had good bones, solid foundation, excellent location. With proper investment, it could become something special, something that would let Jack keep his dignity while securing Emma's future. The door chime at Riley's auto shop rang as Sarah pushed it open, careful to keep her designer boots away from the oil stains. Jack emerged from under a car. That same surprised smile crossing his face when he saw her. "Twice in 1 week," he said, wiping his hands. "Should I be worried?" "Actually, I'm here to see Mr. Riley." Sarah kept her voice casual. "I represent some investors interested in local businesses." Jack's smile faded slightly. "Here to help tear it down." "The opposite." Sarah pulled out a folder containing Wilson Automotive Holdings' proposal. "We want to renovate, modernize, keep the existing staff and expertise while updating the equipment." Hope flickered across Jack's face before doubt clouded it. "Sounds expensive. Investments usually are." Sarah watched Riley examine the proposal, her heart beating faster than it ever had in corporate boardrooms. "But we believe in preserving community businesses." Later, as she walked Jack through the potential changes, his enthusiasm was contagious. "We could expand the service bay here," he said, pointing to the blueprint. "Maybe add a waiting area for customers. Emma could paint something for the walls." He caught himself, embarrassed by his excitement. "Sorry, getting ahead of myself. It's your company's decision." "Our investors believe in collaboration," Sarah said carefully. "We value the expertise of people who know the business from the ground up." They were standing close now, both leaning over the blueprint. Sarah could smell engine oil and something distinctly Jack, like fresh air and honest work. "Why are you really doing this?" he asked softly. "Because I'm falling for you," she wanted to say. "Because your daughter's smile lights up rooms. Because You saved me in more ways than you know. Instead, she said, sometimes people just want to do the right thing. The moment stretched between them, full of unspoken possibilities. Then Emma burst in, fresh from art class, her backpack clattering with supplies. Sarah! She threw her arms around Sarah's waist, heedless of proper business etiquette. Did you see my new painting? I did it just for you. Jack started to scold her, but Sarah was already crouching down, examining the canvas Emma proudly displayed. It showed 3 figures. A tall man in blue coveralls, a small girl with wild curls, and a woman in between them, all holding hands. It's beautiful, Sarah whispered, her throat tight. Is that us? Emma beamed. See, Daddy's fixing cars, I'm painting, and you're doing your art stuff. Sarah met Jack's eyes over Emma's head, saw the same mix of joy and terror she felt. They were playing with fire, all of them. Her secret identity, his pride, Emma's innocent hope. The blueprint crinkled as Emma set her painting on it, the past and future overlapping on Riley's desk. Sarah's phone buzzed, another message from her father's assistant about another missed board meeting. But for now, in this oil-stained garage with its endless possibilities, Sarah let herself believe in happy endings. Hey, Jack said softly, noticing her distraction. You okay? Sarah looked at the painting again. 3 figures standing together against a bright blue sky. A family of choice rather than obligation. Everything she'd been searching for when she'd walked away from her old life. Never better, she said, and for the first time in months it wasn't a lie. Emma's colored pencils scattered across the coffee table as she worked intently on her latest drawing. From the kitchen, the sounds of Jack and Sarah cooking dinner together drifted in. Soft laughter, the clink of plates, comfortable silence. It had become their Friday night routine over the past few weeks. Almost done, Emma announced, adding final touches to her masterpiece. The paper showed 3 stick figures having a picnic under a rainbow. She'd been drawing them together more, often lately, Daddy, herself and Sarah. It felt right. In the kitchen, Sarah was teaching Jack how to make proper Italian sauce. Not from a jar, Jack. That's practically criminal. She moved around their small kitchen as if she belonged there, reaching for spices, stirring the pot, hip-checking Jack playfully when he tried to add too much garlic. My mother would be horrified, Sarah said, tasting the sauce. She had professional chefs, never cooked a day in her life. Had? Jack asked carefully. Sarah tensed slightly. Has. She has chefs. She turned away, focusing intently on the bubbling pot. Emma padded into the kitchen, holding up her drawing. Look what I made! Sarah's face lit up, the same way it always did when Emma showed her art. It's beautiful. Is that us having a picnic? Uh-huh. Can we have a real picnic? Please? Jack and Sarah exchanged glances. These moments were happening more often. Emma making plans, assuming Sarah would be there, making her part of their story. Maybe next weekend, Jack said cautiously. If Sarah's not busy with work. I'll make time, Sarah said softly, and something in her voice made Jack look at her sharply. Later, after Emma was in bed, they sat on the worn couch, wine glasses in hand. Emma's drawing lay on the coffee table between them. She's getting attached, Jack said finally. To this. To you. Is that a bad thing? It could be. He turned to face her. Sarah, I don't even know what you do most days. Where you go when you're not here. If this is just... What is this? Sarah set down her wineglass, staring at Emma's drawing. 3 figures, holding hands, smiling beneath a bright rainbow. So simple, so impossible. This is the most real thing in my life, she whispered, being here with you and Emma, cooking dinner, looking at her art. I know it doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense, Jack interrupted. That's what scares me. He reached for her hand, and Sarah let him take it, feeling calluses earned from honest work against her soft palm. Such different worlds they came from, and yet... Stay, he said simply. Watch a movie. It's still early. So she stayed, curling into his side as they watched some old comedy neither really paid attention to. This was dangerous territory. Every minute she spent here made it harder to maintain her careful facade. Every touch, every laugh, every shared look pushed her closer to a truth she couldn't tell. Emma's door creaked open around midnight. "I had a bad dream," she said, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. Without hesitation, Sarah opened her arms and Emma crawled onto the couch between them. She fell asleep there, head on Sarah's lap, while Jack stroked her curls. "I should go," Sarah said eventually, but made no move to leave. "Stay," Jack said again. And this time they both knew he wasn't just talking about the movie. Sarah looked down at Emma, peaceful in sleep, then at Jack's face in the television's soft glow. Everything she'd run from her old life to find was right here in this moment. "Okay," she whispered, "I'll stay." She fell asleep there on the couch, Emma's weight warm against her, Jack's hand entwined with hers. On the coffee table, Emma's drawing smiled up at the ceiling, 3 figures, a rainbow, and a future full of impossible promises. But even in sleep, Sarah's other life haunted her. She dreamed of boardrooms and disapproving faces, of headlines and exposed lies. In her dreams, the rainbow in Emma's drawing washed away in the rain, leaving only running colors and ruined paper behind. The glossy magazine on Sarah's desk screamed in bold letters, "Blackwood Heiress, missing or hiding." Below, a photo of her from 6 months ago. Sarah Blackwood in designer clothes, stepping out of a corporate jet. Beside it, a blurry photo. From last week, Sarah Wilson in jeans and a sweater, leaving Riley's auto shop. "They're getting closer," her grandmother warned over the phone. "That reporter from the Chronicle has been asking questions about the helicopter crash." Someone remembered the registration number. Sarah's hands shook as she flipped through the magazine. The article speculated about her absence from recent board meetings, her sudden withdrawal from society events. There were quotes from Inside, sources about possible mental breakdowns, secret rehab stays, even a hidden pregnancy. If only they knew the truth was both simpler and more complicated, that the Blackwood heiress had found everything she'd been looking for in a rundown garage with a struggling mechanic and his artistic daughter. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jack. "Emma's art showcase tonight. Don't forget, she saved you a seat." Sarah smiled, then froze as another message came through, this one from her father's assistant. "Board meeting tomorrow, non-negotiable. Your father knows about Seattle." The magazine crumpled in her grip. She'd been so careful, using shell, companies keeping her world separate. But she should have known better. The Blackwood Empire had eyes everywhere. At Riley's auto shop, the renovation was in full swing. New equipment arrived daily, and Jack's excitement was contagious as he showed her the improvements. "The new lift is amazing," he said, leading her through the garage. "And look, we've started Emma's mural in the waiting area." The wall was a riot of color, Emma's distinctive style bringing life to the industrial space. But Sarah's attention was caught by the small TV in the corner, where a business news channel was running a familiar photo. "Speculation continues about Sarah Blackwood's whereabouts," the anchor was saying. "Sources suggest the Blackwood global heir has been spotted in Seattle." "Hey, that kind of looks like you," Jack said, squinting at the screen. Sarah's heart stopped. "Just one of those faces, I guess," she managed, quickly changing the subject. "The mural's beautiful. Emma's really outdone herself." But Jack's expression had shifted, something uncertain flickering behind his eyes. "You know, I realized I've never seen where you live. You always come here, or we meet somewhere." "My place is a mess," Sarah said quickly. "Art consulting, lots of catalogues everywhere. Besides, Emma's much more comfortable here." As if summoned, Emma burst through the door, saving Sarah from Jack's increasingly questioning look. "Sarah, you have to come see my piece for tonight. It's my best one ever." Sarah let herself be pulled along, grateful for the interruption. But she caught a glimpse of Jack watching her, his mechanic's mind that was so good at solving problems starting to put pieces together. At the school art showcase that evening, Emma proudly showed off her painting. an abstract swirl of blues and golds that somehow captured both motion and emotion. "It's about family," she explained to the small crowd, "about how sometimes the best families are the ones we choose." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes as Emma took both her hand and Jack's, standing between them like in so many of her drawings. This was real. This was true. This was everything. Her phone buzzed again, a message from her grandmother. "They've traced the helicopter. Tomorrow's board meeting. They know everything." Sarah looked at Jack, at Emma, at the life she'd built. Here, the magazine in her bag felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds, its accusations threatening to tear apart this fragile happiness. "You okay?" Jack asked softly, noticing her distraction. "You seem just proud," Sarah said, squeezing his hand. "So proud of our girl. Our girl." The words slipped out naturally, and Emma beamed up at them both. But even as Sarah smiled, back she knew her time was running out. Tomorrow's board meeting loomed like a storm on the horizon, threatening to wash away everything she'd built. The truth would come out. It always did. The only question was whether she could find a way to keep them when it did. The old family photo felt heavy in Sarah's hands. A younger version of herself standing beside her father at a charity gala, diamonds at her throat, her smile practiced and perfect, so different from the way she smiled now, in Emma's drawings, or across Jack's dinner table. The board meeting had been exactly as brutal as she'd expected. "The helicopter crash was unfortunate," her father had said, his voice arctic. "But this little experiment of yours ends now. You have responsibilities, Sarah, to this company, to our family name." Now, sitting in her car outside Jack's house, Sarah stared at the photo. Her other life was catching up, and she had a choice to make. The lights were on inside. She could see Emma's silhouette dancing past the windows, probably showing Jack her latest creation. Her phone buzzed. Her grandmother. "Whatever you decide, dear, decide it for yourself." Sarah took a deep breath and got out of the car, the family photo tucked in her bag like a confession. Through the window she could see them in the kitchen, Jack helping Emma with homework, both heads bent over what looked like a math book. Normal, perfect, real. She knocked and Emma's face lit up when she opened the door. "Sarah, Daddy's trying to help me with fractions, but he's kind of terrible at it." "I heard that," Jack called from the kitchen, but he was smiling as he came to greet her. His smile faded when he saw her face. "Emma, why don't you go work on that art project you were telling me about?" Once Emma was gone, Jack led Sarah to the couch. "What's wrong?" Sarah reached into her bag with trembling hands. "I need to show you something, and after I do, everything might change." She handed him the photo, watched his eyes move from the young woman in the picture to her face and back again, watched understanding dawn, followed by confusion, then hurt. "Sarah Blackwood," he said. Finally, the name falling between them like a stone. The missing heiress, the one they've been talking about on the news. Yes, the helicopter crash. That wasn't random, was it? You were running from something. Sarah's laugh was shaky. Running towards something, actually. A real life, real connections. Then you saved me, and I found everything I'd been looking for. But I couldn't tell you who I really was without risking losing it all. So instead, you lied." Jack's voice was quiet. "Dangerous. The garage purchase, that was you? Through a shell company. I wanted to help, but I knew you wouldn't accept." "Charity! It wasn't your decision to make." The photo crumpled slightly in his grip. "Do you have any idea what you've done? I've been living on pride and promises, trying to give Emma the best life I could. Then you come along, playing at being normal." "I wasn't playing," Sarah's voice broke. "Everything I felt, everything we built here, that was real, is real." "How can I know that? How can I trust anything you've said?" From down the hall came the sound of Emma humming, oblivious to the way her carefully drawn family was fracturing. "Ask me anything," Sarah said desperately. "I'll tell you everything. About my family, the company, why I left. No more lies." Jack stood, pacing the small living room. The art consulting? Not entirely a lie. I managed my family's collection. It's worth millions. The apartment? Rented under my fake identity. But I really do live there. I left the mansion, the staff, everything. Why? Sarah looked at the photo again, at that perfect empty smile. Because I was suffocating. Every decision made for me, every relationship a strategic move. Then the helicopter crash happened and you saw me, just me, not the Blackwood. Heir, not a business opportunity, just Sarah. Jack sat heavily beside her. Emma adores you. I adore her too. Both of you, more than anything in either of my worlds. And now, Sarah pulled out her phone, showing him the messages from her. Father, they know everything about the crash, about where I've been. They're demanding I return to my responsibilities. She took a shaky breath. But I'm done letting them decide my life. I need to know if there's still a place for me. Here, the real me. Jack was quiet for a long moment, staring at the photo of young Sarah with her perfect smile and empty eyes. Finally, he said, Emma, can you come here? Sarah's heart stopped as Emma bounded in. What's up? Sarah has something to tell you, something important. Jack's eyes met Sarah's. About who she really is. In that moment, looking at Emma's curious face and Jack's cautious one, Sarah understood. Trust, once broken, could only be rebuilt with absolute truth, even if that truth changed everything. The corporate letter lay unopened on Sarah's desk, bearing the embossed Blackwood Global logo. She didn't need to read it to know what it said. The same message had been delivered through emails, phone calls, and her father's increasingly aggressive. Lawyers, come back, take your place, end this foolishness. Emma had taken the news about Sarah's true identity with surprising grace. So you're like a real princess? She'd asked, eyes wide. But you chose us instead of a castle? Something like that, Sarah had answered, watching Jack's face carefully. Now, 3 days later, she sat in her sparse apartment, surrounded by evidence of her dual life. The TV droned with business news, Blackwood Global's stock dropping amid rumors of family instability. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from board members and family associates. A knock at her door made her jump. Jack stood there, looking slightly uncomfortable in the upscale apartment building's hallway. Emma wanted you to have this, he said, handing her a newly completed drawing. She says your old family photo looked too sad. Sarah unfolded the paper. Emma had drawn her twice, once in fancy clothes with a frown, and once in regular clothes with Jack and Emma smiling. Above it, in careful letters, "Choose happy, out of the mouths of babes," Jack said softly. Jack, I'm still angry, he interrupted, about the lies, about you manipulating things with the garage. But Emma's right. We need to talk about where we go from here. Before Sarah could respond, her phone rang, her father's ringtone. She let it go to voicemail. That's been happening a lot, she explained. The board meeting didn't go well. They're threatening to remove my voting rights if I don't return. And what would that mean? Losing control of my mother's shares. She left them to me for a reason, to prevent exactly what my father's trying to do now. He wants to break up the company, sell off the parts that do actual good in the world, focus purely on profit. Jack picked up the corporate letter, turning it over in his hands. And this is what you've been protecting Emma and me from? This world. I wanted to keep you both separate from all this, safe. We don't need protection, Sarah. We need truth. Partners face things together. The word partners hung in the air between them. Before either could speak again, Sarah's laptop chimed with a news alert. She clicked it, then went pale. What is it? She turned the screen to show him. There, on the business news website, was a photo of them at Emma's art showcase. The headline, bold and damning, Blackwood Heiress found, the secret life of Sarah Blackwood. They'll be coming, she said quietly. Reporters, photographers, they'll want to know everything about you and Emma, your past, your finances, every detail of your lives. Let them come. Jack's voice was firm. "We have nothing to hide. You don't understand. My father, he'll try to discredit you, make it look like you're after the money. He's done it before to others who got close to me. Is that why I never let anyone in? Yes, but with you, after the crash, I couldn't help myself." Jack moved closer, taking her hand. "You know what I do with broken machines? I fix them, part by part. Honestly, no shortcuts." Sarah looked down at Emma's drawing again, the two versions of herself, and the choice laid out so simply by an 8-year-old's wisdom. "I have to go to the office tomorrow," she said. "Face the board. My father. We'll go with you." She started to protest, but Jack cut her off. "Not to the meeting, but to be there after, to remind you what you're fighting for." Her phone buzzed again, another message from her father. "Think carefully about tomorrow. Some things can't be undone." Sarah squeezed Jack's hand, looking around her apartment, at the life she'd built trying to escape, and the love she'd found by accident. Tomorrow would change everything, one way or another. But for the first time, she wouldn't face it alone. From her bag, Emma's drawing seemed to glow with simple truth. Choose happy. As if anything in this tangled web of family obligations, corporate power, and unexpected love could ever be that simple. And yet, looking at Jack's steady presence beside her, Sarah wondered if maybe, just maybe, it could be. The business contract was the kind that changed lives. 50 pages of legal language that amounted to a simple choice. Sign away her freedom for the security of everyone she loved, or keep her liberty at the cost of watching her father destroy everything she'd built. "It's quite straightforward," Harrison Blackwood said, sliding the contract across his massive mahogany desk. "You return to your position, take your seat on the board, and do your duty to this family. In exchange, I ensure the continued success of a certain auto repair business." Sarah stared at her father's face, so like her own, yet carved from colder stone. The morning papers lay scattered across his desk, their headlines screaming about the Blackwood heiress's common romance. "And if I refuse, then I'll be forced to protect this company's interests, starting with a full audit of all recent Shell Corporation activities." His smile was razor thin. "I wonder how your mechanic would feel about being investigated for fraud." Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of Blackwood Tower, Seattle sprawled grey and rain-washed. Somewhere out there, Jack was at the garage with Emma, probably helping her with homework between oil changes. Normal, real, everything she'd fought to find. "You taught me that family is everything," Sarah said quietly, "that protecting the Blackwood name was our highest duty." "I did, but you never taught me about love." Harrison's fingers drummed once on the contract. "Love is a luxury we can't afford. Your mother understood that eventually." "Did she? Is that why she left her shares to me instead of you? Why she made me promise to protect the charitable foundation?" Color rose in Harrison's cheeks. "Sign the contract, Sarah. Don't throw away generations of work for some fairy tale." Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Jack. "Emma got an on her art project. Says she couldn't have done it without her bonus mom." Bonus mom. The words blurred through sudden tears. "You know what I remember most about Mom?" Sarah's voice was steady now. "Not the galas or the board meetings. I remember her sneaking into my room at night, crying because she'd missed another school play for a shareholders' meeting, promising things would be different someday. She stood, smoothing her skirt. Designer label, part of her Blackwood. Armor. I'm not going to sign. Then you'll lose everything. No, Dad, I'll keep everything that matters." She turned to leave, then paused. "Mom's foundation stays. The charitable works continue, or every journal, every letter she wrote about. What you did to her goes public." Harrison's face went slack. "You wouldn't dare. I'm my mother's daughter, and I'm done being afraid." The elevator ride down was a blur. In the lobby, reporters waited like wolves, but through the glass doors, Sarah saw them. Jack leaning against his truck, Emma perched on his shoulders, both waving. She stepped out into the chaos of shouted questions and flashing cameras. Miss Blackwood, are you abandoning your family legacy? Is it true you're involved with a common mechanic? Sarah, what about the shareholders? She walked through them all, straight to Jack and Emma. The cameras went crazy as she reached up to help Emma down, as Jack's hand found hers. Daddy says we can have pizza to celebrate my A, Emma announced, oblivious to the media frenzy. Can you come? Sarah looked back at Blackwood Tower, at her father watching from his window high above, then at Jack's worried face, at Emma's hopeful smile. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Later, after Emma was asleep on the couch surrounded by pizza crusts and art supplies, Jack finally asked, "What happened up there?" Sarah leaned into him, breathing in motor oil and honesty and home. "I chose happy." Her phone was already buzzing. With the fallout, stock prices, board member reactions, media requests, tomorrow would bring lawyers and threats and complications. But here, in this moment, watching Emma dream while wrapped in Jack's arms, Sarah knew she'd made the right choice. Some machines couldn't be fixed. Some had to be rebuilt piece by piece into something new, something better. Sarah's resignation letter sat in her grandmother's hands. The elegant stationery, a stark contrast to the cozy kitchen of Margaret Blackwood's penthouse apartment. Outside, rain peppered the windows, turning Seattle's skyline into a watercolor. Blur. "You've certainly caused quite a stir, dear," Margaret said, sipping her tea. "The board is in an uproar. Your father's trying to freeze your assets. Let him try." Sarah watched Emma through the window, drawing on Margaret's covered patio despite the weather. Jack stood nearby, holding an umbrella over her with one hand, and a coffee with the other. "I've already transferred Mom's foundation to a protected trust." Clever girl. Margaret's eyes twinkled. "Just like your mother. She'd be proud, you know, of all of this." The resignation letter was simple, but firm. Effective immediately, Sarah Blackwood was stepping down from all corporate positions within Blackwood Global. But she would retain her voting shares, her mother's legacy, and her position as head of the charitable foundation. "They're good for you," Margaret said softly, nodding toward Jack and Emma. "I haven't seen you smile like this since you were Emma's age." A knock at the door interrupted them. Margaret's housekeeper appeared with a tablet displaying breaking news. "Blackwood Heiress resigns. Love conquers corporate dynasty." Sarah groaned. "They're making it sound like a romance novel." "Isn't it, though?" Margaret's smile was knowing. "The wealthy heiress, the handsome mechanic, the adorable child. It's quite the story." "It's not a story, Grandma. It's my life. Finally, really my life." Through the window, they watched as Emma showed Jack her drawing. "He laughed at something," she said, and the sound carried faintly through the glass. Sarah felt her heart swell. "Your father called," Margaret said carefully. "He's willing to negotiate." "About what?" "He's already threatened everything he can think of. He's offering a compromise. You keep your position with the foundation, full autonomy. All he wants is your public support for the company's new direction." Sarah's hands clenched around her teacup. "His direction, you mean? Gutting environmental initiatives? Scaling back worker protections? Focusing solely on profit? You could do a lot of good with the foundation's resources and help him destroy everything else Mom built." Sarah stood, moving to the window. "No. Some compromises cost too much." Emma had finished her drawing and was pressing it against the window for Sarah to see. It showed the three of them plus Margaret, all holding hands under an umbrella. Jack caught Sarah's eye through the glass and mouthed, "You okay?" She nodded, feeling tears prick her eyes. This was what her mother had wanted for her, not power or position, but the freedom to choose love. "I should warn you," Margaret said, setting down the resignation letter. "Harrison won't stop. He'll try to paint Jack as a gold digger, dig up anything he can from his past. Jack's past is an open book. Single dad, works hard, loves his daughter, nothing to hide. And Emma, are you ready for how this might affect her?" Sarah turned from the window. "We've talked about it, all of us. She's stronger than anyone knows." As if on cue, Emma burst through the door, trailing raindrops and excitement. "Sarah, Grandma Margaret, look what I made!" Margaret's eyes widened at being called Grandma, but her smile was genuine as Emma climbed into her lap with the drawing. "It's all of us," Emma explained. "See, we're having a picnic in the rain because sometimes the best things happen when it's stormy." Jack joined them, careful to keep his wet shoes off Margaret's antique rug. "Sorry about the grandma thing," he said, "once she gets an idea in her head." "Don't you dare apologize," Margaret said firmly. "I haven't been anyone's grandmother in far too long." Sarah watched them. The elegant society matron, the hard-working mechanic, the precocious artist, all brought together by a helicopter crash and a choice to be brave. Her phone buzzed with another message from her father, but for once she didn't even look at it. Some choices changed everything, but the best ones just revealed what was true all along. The viral video had already reached 2 million views by breakfast. Someone had captured the moment outside Blackwood Tower, Sarah walking through the press gauntlet straight into Jack and Emma's arms, set to soaring music and overlaid with inspirational quotes about choosing love over money. It had become an overnight sensation. "Look, they're calling us a modern fairy tale," Emma said, scrolling through comments on Jack's phone during breakfast. "The princess who chose love over her castle. Can I be a princess too?" "You're already an artist," Jack said, gently reclaiming his phone. "That's better than being a princess." Sarah watched them from behind her laptop, where dozens of interview requests filled her inbox. Good Morning America, Ellen, The View. Everyone wanted the story of the billionaire heiress and the mechanic who saved her life. "We don't have to do any of them," she said. "We can wait it out." Jack reached across the table, taking her hand. "Or we can tell our story our way, before someone else does it for us." A notification popped up on Sarah's screen. Another article from the financial press. Blackwood Global stock tumbles amid family drama. Below it, a more personal hit. Sources close to mechanic reveal troubled past. "They're trying to paint you as an opportunist," Sarah said, anger coloring her voice. "Using your ex-wife, leaving as evidence of... God, I hate them." "Hey," Jack squeezed her hand. "Emma and I have nothing to hide. Let them dig. All they'll find is a single dad doing his best." Emma looked up from her breakfast. "Can I show them my drawings? The ones about our family?" Sarah and Jack exchanged glances. Emma's art had documented their entire journey, from the helicopter crash to their growing connection, each piece filled with the pure insight only a child could offer. "Actually," Sarah said slowly, "that might be perfect." They chose a local news station for their first interview, setting it at Riley's auto shop. The renovations were nearly complete, and Emma's murals brought life to every wall. The reporter, a woman named Claire Chen, arrived with minimal crew and a gentle approach that set them all at ease. "So, Emma," Claire said, sitting beside the girl's art display, "tell me about these drawings." "This one's from when Sarah first started coming over," Emma explained, pointing to an early sketch. "See how she's kind of far away from me and Daddy? But then in this one, she's closer. And this one's after she taught me about mixing colors. We're all holding hands." The camera panned across Emma's artistic timeline of their relationship, each drawing telling part of their story. "And this," Emma said proudly, revealing her latest piece, "is from when Sarah chose us instead of her castle." The painting showed the scene outside Blackwood Tower, but through Emma's eyes. The reporters were drawn as storm clouds, but Sarah, Jack, and Emma stood in a bubble of golden light. Above them, a helicopter, the one that had started it all, trailed a rainbow through the grey sky. Claire turned to Sarah. "You gave up quite a lot to be with them." "Actually," Sarah said, pulling Emma close, "I gained everything that matters." Jack joined them, his arms sliding naturally around Sarah's waist. "We all did." The interview aired that evening. By midnight, Emma's artwork had gone viral in its own right. Cho's Happy started trending, with people sharing their own stories of choosing love over obligation, authenticity over expectation. Sarah's phone rang. Her grandmother. Well played, Margaret said. The art was a masterstroke. Even your father's PR team can't spin against a child's honest perspective. It wasn't strategy, Sarah replied, watching Jack help Emma get ready for bed through the doorway. It was just truth. Truth is the best strategy, dear. By the way, have you seen the Foundation's donation numbers since the interview aired? Sarah checked her email. Her eyes widened. This is more than we raised all last year. Turns out people love supporting a charitable foundation run by someone who actually believes in putting good into the world. Who knew? After hanging up, Sarah joined Jack and Emma for their nightly routine. Emma insisted on reading her latest fan mail. Apparently, art teachers across the country were using her drawings to teach children about family and acceptance. Did I help? Emma asked sleepily as Sarah tucked her in. With all the grown-up stuff, Sarah kissed her forehead. You helped more than anyone, sweetheart. You showed everyone what love really looks like. Later, curled on the couch with Jack, Sarah scrolled through the endless supportive messages. For every negative comment about gold diggers or class betrayal, there were hundreds celebrating their choice to follow their hearts. You know, Jack said, reading over her shoulder, when I ran toward that helicopter, I thought I was just doing my job, fixing something broken. Sarah turned to face him. And instead, his kiss was soft, certain. Instead, I found everything I never knew I was looking for. Outside, cameras still lurked occasionally, hoping to catch the fairy tale couple. But inside this home, in these moments, there was no fairy tale, just the simple, profound reality of three people who had chosen each other, who had chosen happy. The family estate photo dominated the wall of Harrison Blackwood's study, 4 generations of Blackwoods posed formally in front of their mansion. Sarah stood in the front, younger and immaculate in designer clothes, her smile not quite reaching, her eyes. Now she faced that photo, her father's words hanging in the air between them. $100 million, Harrison repeated, tax-free, in an offshore account. Enough to give Emma every opportunity to set Jack up for life. All you have to do is walk away quietly. Sarah studied her father's face, so familiar yet suddenly foreign. Behind him, her aunts Clara and Patricia sat like vultures, while her cousin Richard paced by the window. The garage is already becoming a chain, Clara added. We've drawn up expansion plans. Jack could be CEO of his own company. And Emma's art? Patricia chimed in. We've spoken to the finest schools in Europe. Stop! Sarah's voice cut through their offers. Just stop! She turned to the photo, to her younger self, trapped in that perfect pose. Beside it hung a smaller frame she'd never noticed before, her mother on her wedding day, with that same careful smile that didn't reach her eyes. You did this to her too, didn't you? Sarah asked quietly. Tried to buy her happiness with golden chains? Harrison's face hardened. Your mother made her choice. Yes, she did. She chose to protect me from exactly this moment, to make sure I'd have the power to choose differently. You're being ridiculous, Richard snapped. This isn't some romantic movie. That mechanic, his name is Jack, is clearly after the money. Why else would he? Because he loves me. Sarah's laugh was genuine. God, that's what none of you understand. He loved me when he thought I was just Sarah Wilson, art consultant. He loved me when he found out I was Sarah Blackwood. He loves me enough to face all of this insanity because he knows who I really am. And who is that? Harrison's voice was dangerous. Sarah pulled out her phone, showing them her latest background photo. Jack teaching Emma how to change oil, both of them laughing, covered in grease. I'm the woman who brings them coffee and learns about carburetors, who helps with math homework and hangs children's art in a garage waiting room, who finally understands what Mom meant when she said some things are worth more than money. You're a Blackwood, Clara hissed. You have responsibilities. Yes, I do, Sarah straightened. To the foundation, to Mom's legacy of actual good in the world, to showing Emma that love isn't something you can buy or sell, to being the kind of person Jack believes I am. Harrison stood, towering over his desk. If you walk out that door, you're choosing them over your entire family. No, Dad. I'm choosing family over empire. There's a difference. She turned to leave, then paused. You know what Emma said when she saw this photo? She asked why no one was hugging, why no one looked happy. Out of the mouths of babes, right? Outside, Jack's truck sat in the mansion's circular drive, looking deliciously out of place. He and Emma had insisted on coming, on waiting. Through the windshield, Sarah could see Emma drawing, probably documenting this moment like she had all. The others. How'd it go? Jack asked as she climbed in. They offered us the world. And? Sarah leaned across the seat, kissing him softly. I already have it. Emma held up her latest drawing, the mansion dark and looming, but the three of them in, the truck surrounded by light. I made the house sad, because they don't know how to be happy yet, she explained. But maybe someday they'll learn. As they drove away, Sarah glanced in the side mirror. Her father stood at the study window, watching them leave. For a moment, she thought she saw something in his face. Regret, perhaps, or recognition. Then, they turned the corner, and the mansion disappeared behind them. Ice cream, Jack suggested. I think we've earned it. Can I get sprinkles? Emma asked. And hot fudge, and yes to everything, Sarah laughed. Today, we celebrate choosing. Right. The late afternoon sun turned Seattle's rain-slicked streets to gold. In the truck's cab, Emma chatted about ice cream flavors while Jack's hand found Sarah's, their fingers intertwining with the easy comfort of two people who knew exactly where they belonged. Behind them, the weight of generations of Blackwood. Expectations fell away, replaced by the simple, profound joy of being exactly who they were meant to be. The new business plan spread across the garage's break-room table, its fresh pages outlining a future that none of them could have imagined months ago. Riley's Community Auto Works, read the header, with a logo Emma had designed, a wrench, wrapped in flowing artistic swirls. So, Jack said, pointing to the blueprint, the main garage stays exactly as is. Honest work, fair prices, serving the neighborhood. But we add the training program here, teaching basic car maintenance to everyone, especially women and seniors, Sarah added. Plus the art space for kids while their parents' cars are being serviced. Riley, who delayed his retirement to help with the transition, shook his head in amazement. Never thought I'd see the day. Art and auto repair. Why not? Emma chimed in from her corner where she was painting a new mural. Everything's better with art. The plan had come together organically. Sarah's business acumen combining with Jack's practical experience, all filtered through Emma's creative perspective. They were expanding, yes, but not the way Harrison had proposed. Instead of a soulless chain, they were building something unique, a community hub where art and engineering intersected. The Foundation's board approved the grant, Sarah said, pulling out another document. We'll be able to offer scholarships. For the training program, make it accessible to everyone. Jack studied her face. The way her eyes lit up talking about helping others, so different from the corporate ice queen she'd been trained to be. Your mum would have loved this. She would have, said a voice from the doorway. Margaret Blackwood stood there looking both elegant and somewhat uncertain in the working-class setting, though I doubt she would have imagined auto mechanics as the vehicle for her philanthropic dreams. Grandma Margaret! Emma ran over, heedless of the paint on her hands. Margaret, to her credit, didn't flinch as tiny, colourful handprints decorated her designer suit. I brought something, Margaret said, producing a folder. From your mother's private papers, Sarah. I think she'd want you to have it now. Inside was a letter, dated just weeks before her death, outlining her vision for the foundation. The final paragraph jumped out. Money without meaning is poverty of the soul. True wealth lies in how we enrich the lives of others. She wrote that after visiting a community center in the Bronx, Margaret explained. She'd finally figured out what she wanted the foundation to become. Not just writing checks, but creating real change at the ground level. Sarah wiped tears from her eyes. And now we're doing it. One oil change, one art class at a time. The door chimed as customers began arriving for the day. Through the window, they could see the newly renovated waiting area filling up, parents settling in with coffee, while their children gravitated to the art corner Emma had designed. "Better get to work," Jack said, pulling on his coveralls. He paused to kiss Sarah, leaving a smudge of grease on her cheek. "Board meeting at noon." Sarah smiled at their private joke. The board was their weekly lunch meeting. Jack, Sarah, Emma, Riley, and now Margaret, all planning the future of Riley's community auto works together. "I'll bring the sandwiches," Margaret offered, surprising them all. "What?" "I'm learning about this, what did you call it, Emma? Normal people food." As they dispersed to their various tasks, Jack to the garage, Emma to her art corner, Margaret to explore this new world she'd stumbled into, Sarah looked at the business plan again. It wasn't the corporate takeover her father had envisioned. It was better, real, a place where art met engineering, where wealthy clients chatted with scholarship recipients over coffee, where everyone's car got the same honest treatment. "Miss Blackwood," a teenage girl approached nervously, "I signed up for the women's basic auto class. I was wondering, could I also volunteer in the art program?" Sarah felt her heart swell. "Of course. And please, call me Sarah." Outside, the sign for Riley's Community Auto Works gleamed in the rare Seattle sun. Below it, Emma's latest mural showed a diverse group of people working on cars while children painted nearby. At the center, three familiar figures, a mechanic, an artist, and a woman who had finally found her true calling. The dinner invitation sat propped against a vase of fresh flowers on Margaret's coffee table. The cardstock was elegant but warm, featuring one of Emma's drawings as the border design. "Please join us for a family celebration, bringing both worlds together. Your father RSVP'd, yes," Margaret said, watching Sarah's face carefully. "Along with Clara and Patricia, even Richard's coming." Sarah set down her tea, hands trembling slightly. After 3 months of silence, "Why now, perhaps?" "Because your little experiment is working," Margaret gestured to the morning's business section. Riley's Community Auto Works was featured in a glowing article about innovative social enterprise. Success has a way of changing minds. "Or maybe," Jack added from his spot by the window, where he was helping Emma with her latest art project, "they just miss you." The success was undeniable. What had started as a single garage had grown into a model that other communities wanted to replicate. The combination of quality auto service and community enrichment programs had struck a chord. Even Harrison's business associates were taking notice, especially after their children started bringing home both art projects and basic automotive knowledge. The Foundation's quarterly report probably didn't hurt either, Sarah admitted. The numbers showed that their small-scale, community-based approach was actually creating more sustainable change than traditional top-down philanthropy. "Daddy, can I invite my whole art class to help with the decorations?" Emma asked, looking up from her work. "Since it's going to be at the garage anyway." "About that," Margaret interjected, "I was thinking perhaps we could host it here instead." Sarah stared at her grandmother. The Blackwood family penthouse had always been a fortress of exclusivity. The idea of it filled with Emma's art class, garage staff, and community members. "Really?" Emma's eyes lit up. "We could hang art in the fancy room." Margaret smiled. "I think it's time these walls saw some color." The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. Emma and her friends transformed Margaret's formal dining room with streamers and artwork. The garage staff brought their families, filling the austere space with life and laughter. Sarah's foundation team mingled with auto mechanics, while Margaret discovered she had a surprising knack for connecting with everyone. When Harrison Blackwood arrived, he paused in the doorway, taking in the scene. His granddaughter was teaching a group of adults and children about different painting techniques. Jack was explaining basic engine maintenance to a cluster of interested society women. And Sarah was exactly where she belonged, moving effortlessly between all the groups, bringing people together. "She's quite remarkable," Harrison said quietly to Margaret. I was wrong to try to force her into a mold. Yes, you were. Margaret's voice was firm but kind. But you're here now. Sarah spotted them and approached, tension visible in her shoulders. Dad, I'm glad you came. Before Harrison could respond, Emma rushed over. Grandpa Harrison, come see what I painted for you. The room fell silent as the small girl grabbed the formidable businessman's hand, pulling him toward her art display. There, among dozens of vibrant pieces, was a portrait of Harrison himself, but not the stern corporate warrior. Emma had painted him smiling, surrounded by family, his walls of isolation broken down by swirls of color. It's how I think you could be, Emma explained, if you let yourself be happy like we are. Harrison stared at the painting for a long moment. Then, to everyone's shock, he knelt down to Emma's level. You know, young lady, I think you might be the wisest person in this room. The tension broke. Sarah felt Jack's arm slip around her waist as they watched Emma launch into an enthusiastic explanation of her artistic process to her newly captive audience. Well, Jack murmured in her ear, looks like your daughter just accomplished the impossible. Our daughter, Sarah corrected softly, leaning into him, and she's been doing the impossible since the day we met. Around them, the two worlds continued to merge and mingle. Clara was getting an impromptu lesson in tire rotation from one of the garage's senior mechanics. Patricia was admiring the children's artwork with genuine enthusiasm. Even Richard was laughing at Riley's old garage stories. Margaret appeared at Sarah's side, holding up her phone. Your mother's foundation just received its largest private donation ever. She showed Sarah the notification. From Harrison Blackwood personally. No strings attached. Sarah watched her father listening intently as Emma explained the importance of using bright colors to show happiness. Some bridges, it seemed, could be built with nothing more than a child's wisdom and an open heart. The hospital bracelet was too big for Emma's small wrist. Sarah stared at it as the little girl slept, the stark white plastic bearing information that had changed their world in an instant. Emma Andrews, age 8. Pediatric oncology. It had started with fatigue, then bruises that wouldn't heal. When Emma fell asleep during art class, her favorite time of day, they knew something was wrong. Now, 3 days into their hospital stay, words like leukemia and treatment protocol had become part of their vocabulary. Jack hadn't left Emma's side, except when the nurses insisted. He sat now in the uncomfortable hospital chair, still wearing his work coveralls, holding Emma's hand as if he could anchor her to health through sheer force of will. The specialist will be here in an hour, Sarah said softly, checking her phone. Dr. Matthews, she's the best pediatric oncologist on the West Coast. How did you... Jack started, then stopped. Of course, the Blackwood name still opened doors, even ones they'd never wanted to walk through. I called in every favor, Sarah admitted. Dad's connections, the Foundation's medical board. I'm not ashamed of using everything we have. Not for her. Emma stirred, her eyes fluttering open. Despite everything, she smiled. Is it art therapy time yet? The art therapy program had been Sarah's idea, something to keep Emma's spirits up during the long hospital days. The walls of her private room were already covered with new drawings. Different from her usual style, these featured brave knights fighting dragon-shaped cancer cells. Soon, sweetheart, Jack promised. How are you feeling? Tired, but I had good dreams. I was painting the whole world with healing colors. Sarah's phone buzzed, a message from Margaret. The Foundation's emergency board had approved a major donation to the hospital's pediatric cancer research department. Harrison had matched it personally. A nurse entered with the morning medications. Emma made a face at the pills, but her expression brightened when she saw what else the nurse carried, new art supplies delivered by the hospital's child life department. These came with a note, the nurse said, handing Sarah a card. Inside, messages filled every space, signatures from garage staff, Emma's art students, Foundation workers, even Harrison and the aunts. At the center, in Emma's art corner at the garage, Someone had started a mural of support, hundreds of painted handprints forming a heart. "See," Emma said, studying the card. "Everyone's sending love. That's better than medicine." Jack's voice was rough. "Both is better, kiddo." When Dr. Matthews arrived, she brought both hope and hard truth. The treatment would be aggressive, but Emma's age and health gave her excellent odds. It would mean months of hospital stays, chemotherapy, constant monitoring. "I can't leave work," Jack said later, when Emma was sleeping again. "The garage, the training programs." "Jack," Sarah took his face in her hands. "The garage will run itself. Riley's already volunteered to come back. Everyone wants to help. I can't ask." "You're not asking. This is what family does, all of our family." As if to prove her point, the door opened to reveal Margaret and Harrison, both looking somewhat out of place in the pediatric ward. "We thought," Harrison held up a bag awkwardly. "The gift shop had art supplies." Emma woke to find her room transformed. Someone, Margaret, had arranged for child-safe fairy lights to be strung around her art display. Someone else, Harrison, though he'd never admit it, had managed to find a mini easel that attached to her bed. "Now I can paint even during treatments," Emma declared, her face bright despite the dark circles under her eyes. Sarah watched her father watching Emma. His expression reminded her of something, the way he'd looked in old photos before corporate life had hardened him, when he'd still known how to feel. "She's extraordinary," Harrison said quietly. "Like her mother." Sarah leaned against Jack, drawing strength from his solid presence. "She's teaching us all how to be brave." Later that night, after Emma had finally drifted off to sleep covered, in paint smudges from her latest masterpiece, Sarah found Jack in the hospital chapel. "I keep thinking," he said without turning, "about that helicopter. How I ran toward it without thinking. But this, I don't know how to fix this." Sarah took his hand, feeling the tremors he was trying to hide. "We can't fix it, but we can face it together, all of us." Through the chapel's small window, the Seattle skyline glittered. Somewhere out there, people were gathering at Riley's, adding their handprints to Emma's mural of support. In the morning, there would be doctors and treatments and hard conversations. But for now, in this quiet moment, they held each other and found strength in the love that had brought them together in the first place. Emma's hospital bracelet caught the chapel's dim light, a small white circle of fear and hope. But above, her bed, her latest art, showed something else, a family circle, unbroken and strong, surrounding her with healing light. Emma's recovery drawing covered an entire wall of the hospital's pediatric wing, a massive mural she'd created during her final week of treatment. It showed both her families together, the garage crew, the foundation team, the Blackwoods, all intertwined in a vibrant celebration of healing and hope. "And this," she explained to a group of young patients gathered around her, "is how you mix colors to show joy. See how the yellow and pink make it feel like sunshine?" Sarah watched from the doorway as her daughter, in her heart, if not yet legally, taught her impromptu art class. 6 months of treatment had taken her hair, but not her spirit. If anything, Emma's art had grown more powerful, touching everyone in the cancer ward with its unflagging optimism. "She's quite the teacher," Harrison said, joining Sarah. He'd been coming by regularly, his corporate armor gradually softening in the face of Emma's unconditional acceptance. "The hospital board is interested in making the art therapy program permanent." "Already ahead of you?" Sarah smiled. "The foundation's setting up a dedicated fund. We're calling it the Emma Andrews Healing Arts Initiative." Harrison nodded, watching Emma demonstrate a painting technique to a small boy clutching an IV pole. "You know, I spent decades measuring worth in dollars and cents, stock prices, profit margins." He paused. "I was wrong. Dad, let me finish. Watching her these past months, her courage, her generosity of spirit, the way she brings light to everyone around her, that's true worth. That's the legacy we should be building." Before Sarah could respond, Jack appeared with Emma's latest test results. His face told them everything before he spoke. "Clean scan," he said, voice rough with emotion. "We're going home." Emma's cheer was echoed by her small students. She hugged each one, promising to come back and teach more classes. "Because art helps healing," she declared, with the certainty of someone who knew it firsthand. Later, as they packed up the room that had been their second home for half a year, Sarah found herself sorting through the hundreds of cards and drawings that had accumulated. The garage staff had kept Emma's corner ready, sending photos of new additions to her mural. Foundation employees had organized a rotating schedule of visitors, ensuring she never felt alone. Even Clara and Patricia had revealed hidden talents. One for storytelling, the other for origami, that had helped pass many difficult hours. "Leave those," Margaret said, entering with a professional organizer in tow. "We're having everything properly archived. Emma's journey should be preserved." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Archived, of course. The hospital wants to use her story and artwork to help other families facing similar battles. If that's all right with you all." Jack joined them, Emma dozing in his arms, despite her insistence that she could walk. "More than all right. Right, Princess?" "Mm-hmm," Emma mumbled. "But don't forget to tell them about the healing colors. As important." The trip home was a parade. The garage staff had lined the street, each holding a piece of art created during Emma's classes. The foundation team had decorated the apartment building's lobby, but the biggest surprise waited in Emma's room. "Grandpa Harrison?" Emma's eyes widened at the sight of her transformed space. "Did you do this?" The city's most powerful CEO shuffled almost shyly. "I had help. From everyone." The walls now held professional photos of Emma's hospital murals, interspersed with art from her students. A new drafting table sat by the window, equipped with professional-grade supplies. But the centerpiece was a family portrait, unlike any the Blackwoods had commissioned before. A warm, candid moment captured during one of Emma's hospital art classes, showing all of them together, barriers of wealth and class forgotten in shared love and concern. "It's perfect," Emma declared, hugging Harrison with the same enthusiasm she showed everyone. "Now you're really part of our heart family." "Heart family?" Harrison asked. "The family you choose with your heart. It's the strongest kind." Sarah felt Jack's arms slide around her waist as they watched Emma explain her philosophy of heart families to Harrison. The past 6 months had tested them all, but like the colors in Emma's paintings, they'd emerged brighter and stronger. "For the mixing, you know," Jack said softly. "When she first got sick, I was terrified of accepting help, especially from your family. And now I understand what Emma always knew. Real strength is letting love in, no matter where it comes from." Through the window, Seattle's eternal rain had paused, leaving a rainbow arcing over the city. Emma insisted on setting up her new drafting table immediately, determined to capture the moment. "For the hospital," she explained, her hands already moving with renewed energy. "So other kids remember that after the hardest rain, that's when the most beautiful colors come." Sarah looked around at their gathered family, Jack's quiet strength, Harrison's hard-won wisdom, Margaret's elegant determination, all the others who had become essential parts of their story. Emma was right. The strongest families were the ones chosen by heart, reinforced by trials, and bound together by love that transcended any boundary of wealth or circumstance. The wedding invitation was Emma's finest work yet, a delicate watercolor of a helicopter trailing rainbow ribbons through a stormy sky, with the simple words, "Love finds us in unexpected places," written in her improving calligraphy. Below, the details for Jack and Sarah's celebration at Riley's Community Auto Works, 1 year to the day after the crash that brought them together. "Perfect," Sarah said, watching Emma carefully sign her name as the artist. "Though your father still thinks having it at the garage is unusual." "Harrison will cope," Jack called from the kitchen. "Besides, where else would we find a venue that combines world-class art with free oil changes?" They had considered traditional venues, but nothing else felt right. The garage had become more than a business. It was the heart of their community, where their worlds had merged and their family had grown. Emma's art gallery opening was scheduled for the same day, her Journey Through Healing collection taking over the waiting area. The hospital had asked to make it a traveling exhibition, sharing her message of hope and color with other pediatric wards across the country. "Do you think anyone will come to see my art during the wedding?" Emma asked, adding final touches to the invitation. Sarah smiled, remembering the RSVPs already filling their inbox. "I think, sweetheart, they're coming to the wedding to see your art." The year had changed them all. Harrison had stepped down as CEO, focusing instead on transforming the Blackwood Foundation's mission. He and Emma spent countless hours discussing color theory and community impact, the corporate titan learning to see the world through an artist's eyes. Margaret had become a fixture at the garage, her elegant presence somehow perfectly at home among the tools and engine parts. She hosted monthly teas for the women's automotive class, combining social graces with practical knowledge in a way that would have scandalized her social circle a year ago. The morning of the wedding dawned stormy. Perfectly appropriate, everyone agreed. Emma had insisted on decorating the garage herself, transforming the industrial space into a magical blend of art gallery and celebration venue. Her journey through illness was documented on one wall, while another showed the story of their family's creation, told through a child's wise heart. "Something old," Margaret said, helping Sarah with her grandmother's pearls. "Though I think we've all learned new ways of seeing old things this year." "Something new," Jack added, presenting Sarah with a perfectly maintained socket wrench, "because every marriage needs the right tools." "Something borrowed," Harrison offered gruffly, handing Sarah a small box. Inside was her mother's diary. "It's time you had this. She saw the future you'd build even then." "And something blue," Emma announced, revealing her surprise. She had painted tiny blue helicopters on Sarah's shoes. "So we never forget how our story started." The ceremony was uniquely them. Riley officiated, his weathered face beaming as he spoke about love being like a well-maintained engine, requiring attention, care, and regular checking of fluid levels. Emma stood between them as they exchanged vows, adding her own promises to their new family. When Jack kissed his bride, the garage erupted in cheers. Mechanics whistled while society ladies dabbed their eyes. Foundation board members chatted with auto students, and through it all, Emma's art told their story from the walls. Later, during the reception, Harrison clinked his glass for attention. The former CEO looked almost nervous, a first for him. "A year ago," he began, "I thought I knew what success looked like, what family meant. Then a helicopter crashed, and my daughter was brave enough to choose love over legacy." He paused, looking at Emma. "Or rather, to choose a different kind of legacy. One measured not in dollars, but in lives touched, in colors shared, in bridges built between worlds that never knew they needed each other." Emma tugged at his sleeve, whispering something. Harrison smiled, a real smile, the kind that had once been foreign to his face. "And as my granddaughter just reminded me, sometimes the best families are the ones that crash land into our hearts." Sarah leaned against Jack, watching Emma show her art students how to fold paper helicopters. Their worlds had collided one stormy evening, but the real miracle wasn't the crash or the rescue. It was everything that came after. The choice. To be brave, to be real, to let love guide them home. "Ready to go, Mrs. Andrews," Jack whispered. Sarah looked around at their gathered family, all of them chosen and given, united by love and Emma's healing colors. "I've been ready since the moment you pulled me from that helicopter." Above them, Emma's paper helicopters danced in the breeze, each one carrying a wish for their future, painted in the colors of hope.